I wasn't quite sure what to expect with this record, but a cosmic jam in the middle of it was not something I was expecting. Today, we are talking Bloodsaber, Winter Mourning. Very experimental record, would you say, Mike?
Yeah, man, and I'm glad that bit you brought up is a bit I want to talk about because that probably my favorite bit of the album.
So this is a new self-released, I believe, full length.
Yeah, what's that all about, man? Like, I mean, unless it's like kind of their own thing. Like, how are they not? How's a label not putting this out?
No idea. I couldn't find too much information on these guys. They so like overview. It's like raw black metal. I think this is their fourth full length. But this is the first.
2 years?
What's that? Sorry.
No, 3 years. 3 years. Sorry, 2023 they started.
Yeah. Um, this is the first record I've actually checked out by this band, and I think they've self-proclaimed that it's a little bit more experimental. That they've brought in other influences from outside of black metal, and that is really, really apparent. It really smacks you around the head sometimes. So this, a quick overview. Yeah, it's like raw black metal, but with very. It's like there's synth interludes, but there's like we spoke about on the top of the show. There's like even like a cosmic kind of jammed out like space rock like interval in one of the tracks. It's quite it's not what I was expecting from a black metal record, Mike.
You got kind of like this sort of cold post punk sort of vibe in places as well. There's that kind of death rock influence there too. Um, it's yeah, it's kind of really stands on its own as its own kind of thing, you know. It's but not. It doesn't sound like it's trying too hard. If you, it all sounds
Yeah.
very organic the way it all works with one another. And one of my main takeaways from the sound, which I was really impressed with, was they use a drum machine, right, as the drums on this, and
Confirmed.
they somehow still managed to make it sound quite loose.
Confirmed.
No, I'm just going by what it says. It sounds like it's a drum machine, isn't it?
Well, I think they're a two-piece, and on their Bandcamp it says that one guy does vocals and instrumentals, and the other guy does drums.
Oh
So,
fuck! Really?
so whether that's programmed or, I mean, that would be a bit of a weird thing, but
Yeah, but I mean, okay, right? Yeah, show. I mean, I was quite confident saying that about looking into it, but it it does. I mean, it sounds like a drum machine, doesn't it? It sounds like programmed drums.
yes and no. I don't know. There is a kind of looseness to it, but I guess I, it's hard to tell these days sometimes, man.
Yeah, but I felt like they kind of almost lean into that sort of sound on the drums. Like you think of the first song, and it happens on others. It's almost a loop. Like the
Yeah.
drums is kind of almost a constant loop of the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I kind of thought it was a drum machine. And
Yeah, potentially. I'm not sure. Let us know in the comments if you do know. They do have a sort of like industrial
yeah,
sense about them, don't they? Which I guess could lean into
yeah.
that kind of drum machine thing. But it's like you said, yeah, they do. There's like a hypnotic element to this band. It's raw. It's like cold. It can be very harsh at times. Like some of the guitar leads that come in do like have a real grit and harshness to them, but it's like it's quite thought provoking in a way. It's not your
Mm.
standard black metal release. It does like veer off into some really cool rhythmic trance like sections that actually are really cool. They actually reminded me, especially on track one. Did you ever listen to Fuck Buttons, Mike?
Oh, yeah, I remember them, but I never really got into them.
Yeah, they're like a electronic duo from England, and they were like quite harsh noise influence, but like almost uh, flirted the line with like dance and like noise. But it was really interesting. And but they would just sometimes like do these kind of like screamed, very heavily distorted vocals while this kind of like rhythmic, hypnotic vibe was going on. And there was a touch of that in this as well. And
Yeah,
it would be good to kind of hear where this band did pull influence from because it's very varied overall.
I think as well. Like, despite the different kind of influences and genres they're pulling in here, they actually still really nail the whole coldness and stuff of black metal, but
Yeah.
more than a lot of bands that are just kind of, blast beats and things like that. They you haven't got that kind of element of
W
black metal in this,
There's no
but
blast beats, are there, really?
no, there's nothing. No, no,
No.
no. And they still conjure that imagery better than a lot of bands doing it, I think, still.
Yeah, it's very atmospheric. It's it's an interesting one because it's not guitar driven. It's actually probably, I don't want to say it's more synth driven because it's probably 50-50. The guitars are quite front and center, but the synths do drive a lot of the pulsating like rhythm, and especially there are like 3 or 4 synth interludes that, well, I mean, I call them
Yeah.
interludes. They are kind of songs within themselves. So it's not your average like, here's a riff, here's another riff, like with blast beats.
No.
They're almost like pieces of music, I guess. Like, but the album is very well paced and it's quite cohesive throughout.
You had the sound is almost this kind of wall of noise, mix of guitars and sort of overdriven synths and stuff all together, where sometimes it's hard to tell which one's which.
Yeah,
Um, and it's there's some parts of it where you're like, it's so loose and it almost sounds improv to some of it, because sometimes the guitars and stuff, you can't really hear the structure
yeah,
within it, and it feels very, very loose. But it took me a minute to get used to it, that was what it was going to be.
me
I think
too.
track one is kind of even more so the one that has this kind of like just complete wall of noise sound of synths and guitars. You can't really hear much definition in changes and stuff. It's just sort of wave after wave of like noise and things like that.
Well,
And it's very hypnotic.
I made the mistake, Mike, of listening to this first time through my phone speakers when you sent this, saying, "Oh, let's cover
Oh,
this," and it was foolish. It was foolish.
sound horrible.
Yeah, I couldn't pick anything out, and I was like, I don't know. When I actually sat down with this with headphones and did it start to finish, I was like, fucking hell, this is like a really interesting album, man. I
Mm.
haven't really heard anything like it, and I especially haven't heard. I want to talk about track 5, "Cold Death Earth." Just that like jammed out cosmic
It's
section.
fucking awesome.
Yeah,
It was the best bit of the album, I think.
I agree, but like, that was the last thing I expected to hear on a black metal record.
Yeah.
It was bizarre, but the transitions in and out of it were like really good as well. It wasn't just like, it felt really organic the way it was there. It wasn't like, oh, let's just chuck in a jam section. It did feel like that was where the song was just sort of going, and then it
Yeah.
played out. It was really clever.
And then you had like the way it came out, it was quite a sudden change, like the beat change.
Yeah, like sped up a
Um,
bit, didn't it? But
It sped up, yeah, but I did find it slightly jarring at first, but then I was like, oh, this is cool. Actually, this is interesting, and it's yeah, I felt like the jam part of it didn't go on too long at all. In fact, I was enjoying it so much it could have just kept going for like 20 minutes. I thought it sounded great. I love the guitar tone they had on this. The guitars were like beyond breakup sounding, weren't they? In
yeah,
distortion, they were so harsh,
yeah,
and it sounded so great on those like little sparse lead lines they were doing in that part.
yeah,
Um,
really cool. Like really,
Very interesting album. It really is actually. It's it's not a sort of style we normally cover in black metal like this. But then again, as you said, I haven't really heard albums that sound like this.
yeah, it's really cool. Some of the synth interludes are like, there's a lot of influence from like 80s synth.
Mm.
For example, track 4, Bring Us the Night" was very 80s. But then you had a "Upon the Wind, an Ancient Spirit." It was another synth interlude, track 6, but it felt more dungeon synth inspired. It was a bit more
Yeah,
fantastical with like melody driven than the other synth tracks, which were a bit more ambient. I'd have happily heard like an album of just that kind of like dungeon synth sound that they were doing, because it was actually really, really cool. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
and you're right as well. It kind of it wasn't strictly dungeon synth throughout in those as well. There was this sort of
no,
more ambient kind of electronica part on it as well. One of the songs that, I mean, they might even just take the award for one of the best song titles.
you're just a little gnome.
I know, because it just made me laugh, like how you could say it. Like, is it said as like an insult?
That's
Like, you're
what.
just a little gnome.
Mate,
Like,
I had the exact same
pathetic.
thought process. Yeah, pathetic
Yeah.
little gnome. Uh, or is it, or is it,
I
or is it more like you're just a little gnome in the universe?
that's what I think. It probably is more likely that. I like the more sort of
Insult.
accusing. You're just
Yeah.
a little gnome.
Yeah.
And then, then in brackets, sort of saying something like giving it all that. Like,
Yeah. So that was another synth track that also had
yeah.
a more fantastical feel to it. It was like there was a continuous ambient synth that was sort of like droning underneath, but then you had these really bright, sparkly, like twinkles, like little lead moments that came in. I mean, it was really cool. And
Well, it
then
kind of suited the title as well. It had that more kind of, I don't want to say hole dweller because it didn't sound like, but
yeah,
it had that more kind of
a bit
whimsy kind
whimsical.
of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then ending on the Infinite Book, track 9, it was this one was a lot slower in pace, and I feel this was where maybe a bit more of an industrial feel took over overall. There was like a vocal hook at the end which repeated the title, The Infinite Book, and it was just it was quite pounding, but just really atmospheric, really like oppressive, but I don't know, it just fit and felt like a really good ender to end on.
Absolutely. I want to talk about this one. There's one other track on here that I wanted to mention as one of my highlights. I think it was the title track, Winter Morning.
That's interesting because I actually thought this was the most underwhelming song on the record.
Really, I really liked it. It had quite a post-punk feel, and I felt that the guitars were so distorted and overdriven,
Yeah.
like more so than on the rest of the album. It was like they'd taken them up a notch, and they were almost quite hard to make out what was going on. But I really enjoyed that guitar tone on it.
Yeah. The production overall I thought was actually amazing.
Yeah,
It really it pushed the guitars when they needed to be pushed, but like the harshness of it, the coldness of it, the vocals were like really sat perfectly in the mix. I don't know. This is one that I think everyone should definitely check out. But like sit with it, do the whole record because it's not it's not like anything I've kind of heard in this space. It's
I do feel like you could put it on, get halfway through track one because track one really is quite loopy all the way through,
mm,
and it probably feels. When I first listened to it, I remember thinking this song's going on maybe a bit longer than I think it should. And then it wasn't until I heard the more of the album that I realized what their sound
that's
was and how much it made sense within that. I
yeah.
think if it, what I would say is don't get stuck on track one and think that that's it. As you said, John, you need to, I think you need to at least listen to the first 4 or 5 songs to see if it's for you before turning it off. Because I think when you kind of hear it and get into it, I think even by track two, it starts to show a little bit more of a range of what they're going to do on the album.
Yeah, because it brings in that synth that's like it's very atmospheric, very haunting, and it has this kind of weird, like warped tape effect. You know, like okay,
Yeah.
this is there's something a bit surreal
Yeah.
and I don't want to say like druggy, but like that kind of uh, weird thing going on.
And
Yeah,
also vocally, I liked his vocals. He had that. There was almost a spokenness underneath it that that had almost a storyteller type vibe
mm,
in the way it was delivered. Quite
yeah,
clear, like you could hear his lyrics if you wanted to.
yeah. Man, this was great. Do let us know if you check this one out, what you think of it, because it's it's a very interesting release. If you like what you had to give a like, helps us out a lot, and hit subscribe if you want to hear more content like this. We put out videos every Wednesday and Friday covering the latest metal releases, and we will hopefully catch you in the next one.